Want an RV? Do this. There you go. That's how you do it. Hello everybody. Today let's talk a little bit about parking your RV safely. So there are a couple of things that I like to do to make sure that my RV is safe. Just a few key items before you really get going good. Now I know whenever you get to your destination that you really want to get out there and start enjoying what you went there for. But before you get too far ahead of yourself, there are a few key things that I would like to show you to make sure that you do at least when you get to your destination. First things first, once you get your rig into the place where you want it, make sure that you use these. You want to make sure that you got your wheels chocked so that your rig doesn't try to roll off on you. Once you unhook your rig from the tow vehicle, it may want to move. By having the chocks in place, that'll prevent it from making any kind of movement while you try to finish your setup. That leads me to the number 2 item. It's always a good idea to make sure that you have something on the ground where your jack is going to come down on. The reason for that is because some places that you go to may have really soft ground. By having a block underneath like this, you're able to make sure that it won't sink into the ground and try to mess up your rig. That leads me to point number 3. It's really important to make sure you have your stabilizers down after you're done leveling your rig. You want to make sure you're level left and right and front and back. Once you do that, you can lower your stabilizers and that'll make sure that your rig doesn't wiggle side to side or front to back. Now when lowering your stabilizers, it's very important not to put too much pressure on them. You don't want to use stabilizers to level your rig. You only want to use them to stabilize. They're not strong enough to handle all the weight that your rig could provide. Another very important safety tip is to make sure that wherever you park, before you permanently commit to that being the exact spot that you're going to start setting up, you want to make sure that your slide out or slide outs have plenty of clear space so that when they're coming out, they don't hit any obstructions. Now one little trick that I do is I take a level like this one and I made a mark on it. So from here all the way to the end, if I put it up beside my camper like this, you can see that this black mark right here is the exact space that I need for my slide out to come out. The reason for doing this is to provide some kind of measurement before taking your slide out and hitting anything. Another good safety tip is to use one of these. For me, it's a 30 amp surge protector. They also make them in 50 amp. You plug it up, you turn on the power, and 128 seconds later, it'll tell you whether or not your connection is good. If it is not good, it'll tell you why. After which you can go to the camp host or back up to the camp house and ask them if they can come help to resolve your problem. Now when it comes to hooking up water to your RV, there is a safety point here you need to take as well. That is to make sure that the campsite that you're at doesn't provide too much pressure and blow out the water lines or hoses or anything like that inside your RV. But a few quick tips for the outside you need to know as well. You can use something like this. It restricts the water flow, which reduces the amount of pressure so that you don't overdo your system inside your RV and blow any lines. Another good one to use is something like this one. This one here goes a step further. You can come onto the top right here and you can adjust the amount of pressure that's going into your rig. You can also look onto the gauge right here and you can see how much pressure that is being provided to your rig. Another good idea is to use either regulator at the spigot at the site. You install that first, and then you can put on your filter and then your hose to your rig. The reason for doing that is to make sure that the filter and the hose stay safe from overpressurization. Now for 2 more bonus safety tips. One is to use a cover like this. Covers like these over top of your wheels will protect them from the UV rays from the sun. The reason you want to do that is to prevent your tires from dry rotting over a long time. One last safety tip is to use one of these. These things are called X-Chocks. What they do is they go between your wheels, you turn the nut up here, and it tightens in between the wheels on both sides. That prevents the wheels from turning yet even further. So now that you have your wheels chocked, and you have the X-Chock put in, that'll keep them nice and safe so that they don't turn. Another bonus of having the X-Chock is sometimes you have to level your rig. By leveling it, this will prevent you from being able to put the chocks in. By having the X-Chocks, you can put them in between the wheels, even if they're on top of the blocks to raise your rig, and it'll keep it from moving. Another good reason to have the X-Chocks is it also helps with some of the movement of your rig while you're inside. Keeps it a little more sturdy. Now once you have your wheel chocks in place, you can take care of the front of your rig. You can unhook the chains, your power cord, your brake safety cable. You can do all that, and then you can lift the latch and you can start to disconnect the rig from the tow vehicle. Now once you're done unhooking your rig from the tow vehicle and you've done all the leveling, you'll now be ready to set your stabilizers. You want to make sure when you come back, you do one last thing. You want to make sure you come up here and you hook a lock to the tongue so that somebody else can't just hook up and take off with your rig. That would make for a really bad day. So that'll pretty much do it for the safety tips of the basic setup when you park your rig at a campsite. By following these few simple tips, you'll know that your rig is completely safe when unhooking. After which you can start the rest of your setup by getting the slides out, getting the bed set up, getting the air conditioner started, whatever it may be, so that you can go out and you can start having fun on your adventure. So until the next time, as always, keep it safe and God bless.